Sorry, the call was sudden. I was typing in, like, give me a call once you're ready.
And we're back. This is the podcast for Shaman King. This is Jeremy the Django Hunter. And we're recording a cat being thrown out the room right now.
You actually threw a cat out the room.
5 and 76 of Shaman King. And we're excited to include you in today, no matter where you are. Extra special shout out to our 5 viewers in Brazil who have been talking to us, and big shout out to Longdong69 APH, who is in our Twitch chat right now, chatting with us in the stream. Hey, Longdong. So, today we're going to talk about Shaman King, and today's Shaman King, he went to the beach and got naked with all of his other 12-year-old friends, and they're all naked right now. And during this time, they were meted by an obscure Indian god of death, who taught them to get stronger by killing them, and they all died, and when they woke up, they had a Zenkai boost, but this is not Dragon Ball Z. Jacques, do you want to fill in with any of your thoughts?
I'm sorry, I'm still reeling. I'm lost. I think I sustained enlightenment through that entire spiel, and I am very much shocked and appalled. Mostly appalled. I am actually Logan Paul right this minute.
Logan appalled.
Okay, we're like, I guess the 6 minutes already in the stream. I guess we could start. All right.
We're back.
We never left. What was? Oh, okay. Hey, back. Welcome to the Anime4ALL podcast, season 2 of this wonderful thing that we've created. We are literally like 30 plus episodes in on this season. I guess I want to take this time to, get some house cleaning out of the way. Again,
plus episodes? You mean podcast episodes or episodes of Shaman King?
podcast episodes.
Because we're on you gotta be clear to your audience here. We're on episode 50 at the end of this one.
Yeah, I know we got 2 more episodes to review after this.
Why are you making all sorts of stuff up then? Why don't you just tell the people the truth?
I was in the middle of this. We have 30 plus episodes of this podcast that we've created, and like I did last time, we're probably gonna I'm gonna just say this right now. I want to take a quick small break after we're done with the final 2 episodes. Just because the summer's coming up and I got some things I want to do on my Twitch channel, at least on Mondays for the time being. But we will come back. I think 30 episodes or whatever it is we got for each season is actually a good number. I don't want to overstay our welcome and just move on to season 3 when we'll eventually come back for Dragon Prince. I think that's coming out this year. I sure hope it is, because we both have been wondering where the heck it's been. Come on, Netflix. I know you got it in the back there somewhere. You probably got your dungeon trolls just working on it, just whipping them.
Did you just really say that?
Yes, I'm calling Netflix out.
On dungeon trolls?
Yes. Listen, it's better than saying Korean children in the workshop.
But we know that's what you meant.
Nobody knows that.
Korean children, you know.
I just said dungeon trolls. I said nothing about Korean children.
You just said Korean children twice.
You said Korean children twice.
You said Korean children twice.
You just said it 3 times.
You said it.
Yeah, but I guess I just want to say this now. It's I think we're gonna, after the next 2 episodes that we review, there will be a break in between this podcast and that one. Ha ha.
Covering, is it okay to hit on girls in the dungeon, right?
No, because you've already watched that, and I'm still in the middle of trying to get caught up on that. Because apparently season 4 got announced. Thought you'd be happy about that.
The dungeon one?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm extremely happy. I was unaware.
Yeah, I found it over the weekend. But I got so many other shows that I'm trying to get caught up right now. I've actually re-picked up Black Clover, so working my way through that because that's on a hiatus until they manage to reanimate the last season of Bleach. Can't wait for that.
Hiatus a good series?
I think there is a hiatus something called hiatus. I gotta look that up. I might be just saying words. Oh, Rurouni Kenshin. I brought this up to you months ago. I don't know when it's coming out, but I think it's coming out at some point. If for whatever reason Dragon Prince gets pushed back again, and I know of when Rurouni Kenshin's starting up, maybe that'll be a good slot in. But either show doesn't happen, I know My Hero is coming out later this year, so I guess 2 months of nothing, maybe enough to recharge our batteries to go back at it hard with the beginning of season 6 of My Hero Academia. So there will be a show here to watch, for us to review. I just think maybe it's a good idea to not overstay our welcome. And
you forget who I am while you're gone.
Who are you?
What? Don't do this
Who?
to me, man. Don't do this, man. I love you. Why are you doing this to me?
Who is this love? Is this some kind of cake?
What is love? Baby, don't hurt
It literally flew over his head what I was referencing there.
I don't care.
Wow, he doesn't care about Dragon Ball, folks. You heard it here.
What?
He does not care about Dragon Ball. You heard it here, folks. He literally just said it. He doesn't care about Dragon Ball.
I thought on a show like this you heard it here Faust, not first, but
I guess as we work our way towards that, somebody here is probably running on like 2 hours of caffeine right now, so we're gonna make sure we use it.
you have no idea how I had 4 cups of tea today. Caffeinated tea.
5 hours of caffeine. We're only gonna be using 2 of them.
Right now.
He will probably have to use the bathroom before we're doing this, but that's totally fine.
I am the bathroom, okay? Like,
Oh dear.
my eyeballs are like just little pools right now.
Okay, I guess just so we can move on to the review that we're here for. I guess that's after the next 2 we will take a break, and whenever something that we have our eyes set on, or it's something randomly comes up that it has some interest and we think it's worthy of a review, we'll come back. Oh, that's right, the My Hero movie apparently came out in Japan. I don't know when that's coming out, and the Super anime movie got a Japanese release date for June, so probably next year we'll probably find some way to watch that.
What are you, like some sort of high class guy?
No, because apparently for the reason
You're
we
better
can't.
than saying June. You're like June.
I said June.
Coming out in June. What are you, like a smartass?
Wow, just tell me how you really feel. Actually, on second thought, don't.
Oh, I thought that was an invitation for a minute. I was getting excited. It's coming out in June.
Well, the anime, I mean, we're kind of here to I guess announce things like that. If I ever come across stuff like that, that's kind of also what I want to do as a rework for season 3 of this podcast, is to
It'll be either June
randomly
or July.
coming back every other week, whatever, with something anime related that isn't just what we're reviewing, so that way people can use our podcast as like some way to, oh, there's an anime that they recommend coming out. I guess while we're taking this time to talk about other anime, I guess I'd probably be doing a disservice if I don't bring it up. In the past, when we reviewed My Hero Academia, I mentioned my disdain for a bike. For anybody who has not actually seen this anime, Kino's Journey. My co-host here is an avid fan of it, and it'd probably be a good way to get its name out there. I think in his own words, though, I think you might want to watch the original and not the remake, because I think he said the remake isn't as good. I have no idea. I haven't seen it.
I'm waiting for the fighting words, because I feel like there's fighting words coming.
There's no fighting words coming. Calm down. Okay. And then another anime that I would recommend also that you probably should watch if you haven't heard of it is Moribito. Recommended by him as well.
You're gonna make people think I have good taste or something.
I mean, at this point, you're the one to recommend those shows to me. I watched them. I think they're good. I think they're worth an actual plug that I haven't given them before, so I'm giving it to them now.
Thanks, Schmoopy.
This is what happens when he's hopped up on 4 cups of coffee. I mean, tea.
I'm so hopped up on 4 cups of coffee right now.
But those are the plugs for, I guess, for those shows. If you haven't watched them, go give them a review. If you want to, also say something to us on the Twitter, on my personal Twitter. We'll probably read them. Probably not if we because we haven't gotten any since we've done this for the last 2 to 3 years. I think it's been 2 to 3 years at this point. But with that, we're gonna move on to the episodes 49 and 50. Actually, want to also put a little aside here. I literally forgot what episode we were supposed to be reviewing. I literally had to use Jock's notes for the numbers of the episodes to figure out what the heck we were.
Like, you don't always count on my notes for almost everything.
Don't look behind the curtain. Don't
my
look.
Back hurts from,
Don't.
My back hurts from holding up this entire podcast. Ow. Ow, my back.
What's really sad is that he's joking, but a part of that's 50% of this show is him. at least this anime in particular. 50% of these reviews have been him. If there is some way we can release these behind the scenes notes, I would actually find a way to do so. Let him live in immortality on the internet. When he is fat, dead, and gone, let the notes speak for him what his life was like.
What my life was like. Oh God. Talk about living on in infamy. Let the record speak.
I mean, technically speaking, we'll be living in infamy regardless. I don't know who. I guess I'm gonna speak to people in the future right now. I don't know who or like where you are or what time it is, or if somehow Donald Trump has managed to clone himself and make a mass army.
Why are you gonna bring what? Why are you gonna bring him up? What's the good of that?
I'm trying to be funny here. I mean, because sometimes making a joke, like somehow you predict the future. I mean, we all know this because The Simpsons did it. Almost everything they predicted in their comedy came true. Even the Trump thing.
It was like nightmare scenarios, and yet they came true. They're like, let's make fun of this because it will never happen.
Oh man, jokes on them. They don't live in America.
Yeah, it was pretty sad and scary and terrifying.
But yeah, I guess with that in the future, I guess 40 years from now. Oof, I don't want to think that far ahead, but hey, people from the future, if anybody ever listens to us in the future, who knows? Maybe the internet will become an obsolete existence where everybody who's on it is probably having an existential crisis leading up to their eventual suicide.
Jeremy be like,
that got real.
That got real. Qualify it with in the future, like they listen to us now, that it will change.
You know, you don't have to get all that real. Dang it, Jock.
We could be like, I mean, like
I mean, there are people listening to us, at least from like what I can tell in our stats. I mean, we have 2 videos that have 4 plays on them at this point.
We should have merch out that just like, we should have a contest, prove that you listen to us, and then like have merch for the people that can prove that they listen to us.
I wouldn't be able to hold this because I don't remember half the stuff we say. Literally, just a one-way tube. Whatever I say goes in one ear and comes out the other.
What?
Exactly. Okay, moving on. Episodes 49 and 50. Was not expecting that. Okay. Episodes 49 and 50. Episode 49, Good Night. Yo and his friends meet Kareem, the patch priest who took on Horo. After being exhausted by repeated fierce battles, Kareem's advice delivers unexpected gifts, quote unquote, to Yo and the gang, who decided to rest for the time being.
Is it GIF or GIF?
GIFTS, gifts. Dang it!
What do you mean?
I'm not getting the debate. That's an entire that's a dumpster fire that I don't want to be a part of. Can it be a trump card to defeat How? Who knows? See you next time on Shaman Ball Z.
We just talked about not doing that.
Yep, this is definitely caffeine. He'll probably.
I have had so much caffeine today. Did I tell you about that?
No, not from the 5 times you just told me. Sorry, 6. Okay.
Okay. This is a G-rated podcast. We shouldn't be talking about sex.
Moving on.
Did you say 6 or sex?
SIX. Jeez. 6. The number 6.
Jeez.
Okay, apparently, at least on your notes, the very beginning of the episode, we have actually the
Krillin
guy
uses a solar flare on Master Roshi, but it doesn't work because he's wearing sunglasses.
doesn't say anything in your notes about Master Roshi, but I do see you have Krillin and Solar Flare crossed out.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, I was trying to remember it correctly. If it wasn't Krillin, who was it?
I said I can see you have Krillin and Solar Flare on here crossed out. I'm just saying that you literally put that in there as a joke writing.
Was it Krillin or Faust that used solar flare?
In Dragon Ball Z, it was Krillin that used Solar Flare. This is not Dragon Ball Z.
So it's Faust that used solar flare.
No, it's apparently something called Ampule Hagelin. Hagelin? I don't know how to speak German.
So Hagelin, I'm guessing Hagelin is German for hail, and ampule is a kind of an archaic word for a hermetically sealed small bulbous glass vessel that's used for hypodermic needles. So like in the old days when they had like those like when doctors' offices kind of looked like mad scientist offices, they had these needles that they would like sorry they would put the needle into the thing and they'd pull out the hypodermic and then they'd inject you with it, and they were like hermetically sealed so that they're airtight and just big enough for the vessels. I don't think they use them anymore. I guess I should have looked for it, but that's what an ampule is. So it's a hail of like miscellaneous hypodermic medicines. It looks like they still might use them. It looks like it's common for pharmaceuticals and chemicals that need to be protected from air. Actually, it looks like they're used all the time. And they're hermetically sealed by melting the thin top with an open flame. And you can open them by snapping off the neck.
Of the needle and not the person, right?
What?
Of the needle and not the person, right?
Both.
Medicine's a dangerous practice.
Not snapping off the neck of the needle, but snapping off the neck of the bottle, which actually sounds to me like a bad idea, but that's what it says they do. I feel like the last thing I want injected into my body is potentially a shard of glass, but maybe they know something we don't. I don't know.
Huh.
That's my story, though. And I'm sticking to it.
I just had to look at the episode actually, and there's a needle that he missed, that Faust missed hitting the what's the name of this? Kalim, I think is his name. The name of the patch member that he was fighting, I forgot. Oh, is it Radim? Wait, is it Radim? I really don't remember these guys' names. There's so many of them. Oh, Faust healed himself. I did not catch that when I was watching the episode. I was like wondering what he was doing, like hopping around with his leg. I was really caught off guard while I was watching this episode. I was like that. I was kind of confused by it. I didn't have to see him heal himself, and he did it quickly too. But I guess this fight with
he healed himself twice actually. When he fell in the water, he healed himself again too.
Oh,
like they were like, oh, he's dead, and he got up singing.
you actually want to talk about that? It was very out of place and kind of just made the entire episode. I was laughing the entire time while it was happening.
But it was sort of plot critical too, which made it really unusual.
I don't know how plot critical it was. I mean, I don't think it really worked for the purpose of the song because like, he still failed. I mean, it didn't unless.
No. Think about it this way. How often after that did anyone use that shaman song? I think that, in a weird way, I think that shut down the whole shaman song. The one that they were using to like power themselves up. Mm-hmm. I don't remember it being used after that.
No, I don't think it was. Unless it was already used.
So
I mean,
think of it that way, like it was actually stupid useful in that order.
It was stupid, and then it was useful. Okay, got it.
Not only was it stupid, but it was also useful.
Okay, yeah, it was interesting to see that new attack that he had with his wife, Eliza. And then we have him do this really weird song that kind of completely caught me off guard, and it probably the rest of the world too when it first aired.
But
Um,
did you notice that? Because like it was almost rote, like it was almost like eye roll like level, because like you were like, okay, so we're just gonna like play this over and over again, like this. They're gonna have like their first mode and then release their shaman song, and all of a sudden like they were like fine with it. They were like, okay, like we've got they just forget like it exists after that. And I think that what he was demonstrating is somehow his stupid like go to our spa song like interrupted the shaman song enough where like they were just like, we're not going to use it anymore. But it's weird because like it's not like they had like some sort of network where they could tell that it was that was the case. But from that point forward, nobody uses a shaman song again. Every single one was using it.
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I guess also, Radim, like after that point, Faust is kind of a problem to deal with for a little bit, and then Radim managed to stab him through the chest, killing him promptly, and then Yell gets involved and straight up hugs him to death. This is what I got from that final attack. Because he's talking about like hugging, like I guess like defeat him with love, and then it was just the end of the fight, and he was in the water, dead. I noticed there's been a lot of people dying, and I guess at this point in the series, it's like death means absolutely nothing. Like literally, it means nothing. I mean, we see proof of this when after Faust has been killed, we see his body is on the ground, but his spirit's still running around. Which, by the way, was the first time I've ever seen that during this entire encounter with any of these past drives. Because you think Horo Horo and Tao Ren would have had the same exact experience, but they didn't. So I don't know. That's just like maybe because they're getting closer to the Great Spirit. Maybe just that the roles of life and death don't actually apply anymore.
I wondered about that too. It just also seems like the I don't know. I was also impressed with how relevant Faust became, like remained. Do you think that Faust lent? Um, do you think that Faust taught Yo his healing abilities too, or do you think that's just we haven't seen a need for it yet? But do you think when he integrated with him, because we've seen that Yo can kind of heal now?
Well, I don't think. I mean, I don't think he taught him anything, but because when you integrate it with spirit, you gain all the memories. That's probably what happened there.
Okay.
That's what I believe because they haven't seen spirit integration in a while. Actually, these recent 2 episodes, they've used quite a few techniques that we haven't seen in a while, which is kind of interesting. The spirit ball flame technique that allows them to merge the spirit with the weapon, and then the spirit integration, which allows the user to integrate the spirit into their body. These are two different types of attacks we learned at the very beginning of the series, and we haven't used since because we got this armor soul thing popping up now that was the next step up. So it was kind of interesting that they still needed to use those other shaman abilities.
So explain something. So I'm sorry. Your take is that Yo did not get Faust's knowledge when they merged.
No, he got the knowledge from Faust when he merged with him. I don't think Faust taught him anything.
But you saw Yo heal poison later on.
No, that was just straight up Faust. I don't think Faust merged with anybody. Cause I saw Faust, I didn't see Yo.
For Yuku, if he's not alive.
Like I don't know. I mean, according to Yo, spirit integration doesn't use any. Let me go, cause I honestly all I saw was Faust. I didn't see Yo. I didn't see like a Yo infused Faust at that poison state. I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember. I remember seeing Faust. Now maybe everything kind of went by too fast and my eyes didn't catch it. Oh, that's not this episode. That's episode 50.
Screen, but I just don't know how he's using Fuyuku unless he's.
He had a needle. I mean, I don't think. I don't.
No. But like, he doesn't have a needle. He's a spirit. So like, this is like a spirit ability that he's using, just like other spirits that you channel act like physical beings, even when they're not physical.
I don't think spirits like use for Yoku. I think they just exist. Because if that was the case, then spirits.
They can't just do stuff.
The Furyoku, it belongs to the shaman, not the spirit.
I know.
What I'm
like usually work through somebody. They don't. they don't do things entirely on their own. That's not how the spirits work in this show.
No, actually, I think we have seen some indications. I think even Miyamaro has done some craziness like with that too. What was I about to say? I forgot what I was about to say. I mean, it isn't in episode even 49 that happens. It's actually in episode 50. I was trying to go have a look, but I'm gonna wait till we're in episode 50 to see. But
It's okay. I'm sorry. I have everything time signatured in my notes, so we can get into that when you want. But it just
the thing is, if it was Yo being, if it was Yo, if Faust was using Yo as an intermediary, they would have showed Yo instead of seeing Faust. It wouldn't. It like that makes absolutely no sense from a visual storytelling point. If they wanted us to see Faust, then again, maybe because we saw Yo integrate with Faust before, maybe we're just supposed to infer that Faust is using Yo's body. But then again, as I said before, the whole Furioka thing, I think according to Yo, he even states that I think it uses no Furioka to do that, or it uses very little. Like to the point where it doesn't even matter. Like I remember actually Yo stating that. Like I remember that specific line that he said that it didn't use Furioka, and I don't know why you said that specifically. Though probably for this moment that we're having right now on the podcast, somehow knew we're reviewing this, and we're going to get into this apparently at some point. We're just going to use that as headcanon, and we'll deal with that when we get to it, which shouldn't take too long.
It just seems super interesting to me. That's all.
I mean, we'll get to it. I mean, episode 49 doesn't have too much to review. Wait a minute. No, I take that back. You have a full page and a half. I don't know why I thought it was like maybe a half a page. I guess I was just misreading.
Yeah.
But
the other thing about Faust that I thought was interesting was how resilient he was. That Raiden like knocked him down as soon as he was dead, knocked him down as soon as he was dead. Like they end the episode with.
I think he may have been dead or close to it, and that's just the only reason he was able to heal himself.
Yeah, that's possible.
I mean, then again, death doesn't mean anything in this episode. So somebody dying doesn't really mean they're weak. Just that the person that killed them just had an upper hand at that exact moment, which is a lot of these fights. Is that one side has the upper hand, the other one. Death means absolutely nothing, and they're trying to hammer that in for whatever reason. And this episode kind of did a good job with that, with Faust being a ghost. But as far as your Furioka thing, I don't know what's going on. Maybe we'll get more to it once we actually, I guess, dissect that part at episode 50.
It was also sort of unnecessary because, like, my understanding when I saw that part of the episode was that he was being threatened with poison, and like they could have just left it at that. I'm going to poison you, and it'll stay until I die, and then they didn't have it. So they were deliberately sort of like telling the audience that he has this power to heal, and that made it unusual to me too. I'm like, why are they like establishing this premise right now, unless it's important?
I mean, they've been establishing the whole like kill him with love scenario. So far we had a couple instances. Yo hugged Radim. We know Yo in episode 50 wants to save Hao. I also, I guess, want to get this out of the way now because I was probably going to talk about it then, but I'll talk about it now. A long time ago, we both were very confused about this female in the intro of the anime, and we didn't know what was happening and where she came from. We now know he's a she, and that's just a metaphor for Hao. Knew that was coming. Hao the Princess. They actually use this a lot in this specific what's the word I'm looking for? That comparison.
Awkward scenario? Is that what you were thinking?
Well, I mean, it was an awkward scenario, right? But like, again, this is just one of those things from this show. This show in general, or just this a writer, artist, got made fun of a lot for some of his characters looking androgynous, so much to the point that you can almost assume that they were female. I'm guessing that's really what that visual was for, but they actually quite frequently call Hao a drama queen and a princess. How Yo sees Hao as a princess that needs to be saved, which I guess at this point we kind of knew that he wanted to save Hao, but they're really hammering it home here with the whole that Yo really just wants to save Hao. But I'm pretty sure it's really more of a he's my brother and I don't want to kill him situation. I'm a pacifist type of a guy. I mean,
let's just keep praying to God that that's what they're talking about, but I'm not as optimistic as you.
I don't think they're gonna go any further than that. I highly doubt it. I mean, then again, I mean, the creator of this stuff is not shy from yaoi. So I mean, it could happen. I'd be very uncomfortable, but I mean, I sat down and watched 50 of these episodes at this point. I might as well continue it and be uncomfortable at the very
Did
end.
you see my review where I was like trying to keep track of how many minutes goes by until they show a naked underage child?
No, I
I
didn't.
start taking tabs in there. Like I'm like, okay, it's been like 3 minutes since they've shown a naked underage child. 6 minutes.
I
People
don't
are just
think.
naked all the time in this.
I don't think. I mean, I'm not gonna
It's
argue with
like
that. I don't
their
think.
hobby is like, what do you like to do in your spare time? I like to be naked. That's like every character in this series.
I guess that's a good segue to after after all that
Is that what that
happens.
is?
Yeah, I'm calling it a segue. After all that craziness that happens, we cut away from Yo and the gang, and we see Seiram and and what's her bro's name? Crap, I forgot her bro's name.
But we know the children, yeah. The
The
goblin
children.
kids.
We see because we saw them trying to chase after Hal and try to kill him, and they make it to the area where Hal is underneath the water, and they shoot an MF blast and immediately get attacked by the Great Spirit of Fire. At first, it looks like that they survived it, but we found out they actually died. But before all that happens, we find out that Seiram, the little sister, in fact, could talk the entire time, and she just didn't want to because she had a revelation that shook her to her core.
So like
Now,
I can talk y'all, but I've seen things and I don't want to talk about it.
basically, but what we've learned is, well, I mean, not really learned, more of inferred learning. Uh, just to put it out there all on the line, because it's not here in the notes here. Um, the golem is being controlled not only by the father controlling the daughter through her body, but the golem was being apparently controlled by the mother spirit. It was heavily inferred that it was her in that golem. So much to the point that Hal goes by and says that it's amazing what the protective nature of a mother would do. But I think he also says, but also, is it just sister for her protective over her brother? Because apparently her spirit gets stabbed and it's gushing blood. I don't know what that was about. Essentially, the Great Spirit of Fire ate her. To sum it up, and he wanted to, and he sent the older brother to go tell Yo about what happened, along with the Great Spirit of Fire. We don't know this until he gets there to meet Yo and the gang. But before we get to that point, Yo is meets up with I think, is it Kaleem, the name of the patch member that they meet?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kaleem, who apparently was like the guy who took care of Horo.
Who's the Yo heals Horo Horo? It looked like Yo healed Horo Horo. That's when I was talking about the poison, right?
No, the poison was Radim with Tower Ren's fight, and that was episode 50.
Somewhere between 11:28 and 12:05, it looks like Yo healed Horo Horo maybe. Kaleem said they needed to rest, invited them in.
Oh, wait a minute, but that wasn't poison. That was just him getting one shot.
Yeah, but Yo healed it, right?
I think so. I'm looking at it. Yeah, he integrated with Faust. But that was where I was saying that I think all that really happened there was that, he got Faust's memories and knowledge.
Yo couldn't heal or cure poison, so what makes you think he can't res? Yo couldn't be involved in any of this kind of stuff until this episode.
What was your question?
It looked like he healed Horo Horo, but we have no evidence of Yo healing anybody before this episode.
Yeah.
So if Yo's healing somebody after he integrates with Faust, like he's like, I've integrated with Faust, and then it looks like he heals Horo Horo.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you there. What my point was that Faust didn't give Yo any in the sense of Faust didn't give Yo any knowledge. I mean, really, what I saw integration as just letting the spirit take control of your body. At that point, you're no longer there. Faust was using Yo's body to do what he needed to do. Only through Yo could Faust use his abilities in the human realm. So I mean, you were correct all of that, but I was just saying that I think he made a statement that Faust taught Yo something before he died or something like that. I was like, no, I don't think Faust taught him anything.
No, I don't think he taught him deliberately, literally taught him anything. I think that Yo, in integrating with Faust, became a vessel for Faust's skills.
I mean, but that wasn't really Yo anymore once Faust took over his body. But I mean, yeah,
but it makes sense that like Yo can now do these things. Like we see that like when he integrates with the spirit of a samurai, for example, that now he's a good fighter. You know.
Like, oh yeah, here it doesn't use up Furyoku. Yo says it right there. Soul integration does not use up Furyoku. Apparently, just by integrating, it just doesn't do anything. So I don't know. I get. That seems kind of weird.
It doesn't mean he's not using somebody's skills, or like that after integration, using the abilities that integration involves, like, you know what I mean, are not helpful.
But I don't think using the abilities with soul integration uses a Furyoku. I don't think the energy that they have as a shaman gets used up after soul integration. I actually could be wrong. Let me look that up real quick.
Okay.
Come on, give me soul. Fundamental shamanic ability technique. With shaman, willingly becomes a vessel for another spirit to possess. The technique provides the spirit of a physical body, which is resolved in his business. Shaman transform the spirit into a small orb and then shove the orb in their chest.
Whoa.
2 souls in the body are in prosperity. Shamans overcome his weakness. Each situation, unlike spirit possession, the process is of course voluntary. The only advantage of a soul integration before the introduction of Aura Souls is they consume less for Ryoku. So that must have been a translation error. Because I think Yo specifically said that he doesn't use any. Hold on, let me look at that again. Either the wiki's wrong or the anime is wrong. I'm not sure which one it is.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't use up Furyoku. So I guess that sentence could be left up to interpretation. Meaning I interpreted it wrong. But it doesn't say anything about after the fact using abilities and stuff like that causes use of Furyoku. Nothing about that is on this page. Huh. Okay. We learned something. Yeah, actually, I guess you could brag up. Kaleem, will they meet Kaleem inside the plant room? Or what room were they even in? Highlands plant. Haruho steps up. Kaleem knocks him back, kills him. Yo integrates with Faust, brings him back to life. And apparently, after Haruho was knocked out or killed, apparently he made a recommendation for them to rest up in a house that he had in the Highlands. This is probably the nicest of the Patch Tribe we've ever seen. Even though he still wants to, fight them. Again, we're seeing very weird behaviors from the Patch Tribe, even though they're supposed to protect the Shaman King. I guess in theory they are still protecting him, but you think that you wouldn't let your enemy rest in your house.
Yeah.
I guess speaking of the house, we saw some funny, slice of life moments in there. Like as they're talking, you see this Kaleem tracing around the house, even made a bed for them. Apparently horror goes.
That's another sign that like the shamans are like low key on their side. I think. And they're like, nothing personal, but we're gonna have your back.
I mean, horror brings to the point like, why are we letting the enemy like I guess shelter us and feed us and whatnot, and it's like I think Yo asked, like, is that how you really feel? Horror just goes out the. That was Tyler Ren who asked him that, which I guess is another really interesting character growth for Tyler Ren. But causes Horror to go out to Kali, who's sitting in front of the fireplace, and he says like, we got to settle this. But not by fighting, and we cut to him smiling, and we cut away from that, and apparently somebody from the Gun Horror team has lost his arm and then his life. We found out they're actually trying to get the spirits for the 5 warriors in from hell. So they're working on getting the spirit of Earth. I think they already have wind, water,
and Captain Planet, I think.
Knew that was coming. Not really, but I knew it was coming. They had the spirit of rain. Sorry, spirit of rain. The spirit of thunder. Also named him. I'm not gonna name him. And then the spirit of wind. They're working on the spirit of earth, and they don't know that that Yo and the gang already have the spirit of fire. At least yet, anyway. I don't know how they're intending to like, I guess get these spirits out of hell to Yo. But I guess there's a way to do so.
How to get the spirits out of hell to who?
To the group, Yo's group, because that's the whole point of these spirits.
That part of the section sort of lost me too, because I'm like, wait a minute, who's this person getting all these souls? And like, it seemed disruptive to me. Like I didn't quite fully grok what was happening.
That's what they were. I mean, they said they were trying to grab the spirits. I forgot when it happened. It was some episodes ago before they got here, way a few episodes ago. They brought them back here because that's what they're doing. Apparently, they need the spirits of these spirits of elemental spirits to be able to tackle Hal. They already got the spirit of fire because Red said, just made it to them to show that how to let them know Hal said that you can have this. I don't need them anymore. We also get the whole.
Hal is such like a cocky ass sometimes.
This is Hal. I mean, this is.
You can have the spirit of fire that I spent 1,000 years building up. I don't need it anymore. It's like, really, Hal? Really?
But yeah, he sends him off to like, and Yo realizes.
I just low key had it like devour souls for 1,000 years, but it's not important.
He's about to integrate with the Great Spirit though, so he probably doesn't need it.
Yeah, he probably doesn't need it. I want to slap him. I want to shake him and be like, what's wrong with you, boy?
Apparently everything.
Somebody wasn't raised right. That's pretty much what I'm saying right now.
He wasn't raised though, because he got birthed. He literally ran away in an infant's body.
If there was ever a boy you ain't raised right moment, this is it.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of things that worse that could have happened. This is probably a really bad raising, but at the same time, he wasn't raised. After he was born, he literally floated off with the baby spirit of fire. We never saw him again.
Yeah, and his cheese fell off the cracker. I mean, holy crap, dude.
But yeah, Yo realizes what Hal's trying to do. He ain't taking the bait. We cut away to the island where the grown-ups are all having their, I guess, party. Their little party that isn't like that's actually I guess ended by this point because you see Yo's father trying to swim down to where his son and everybody else is.
A completely irrelevant moment where Manta comes up and says, "Father says I can stay on the island," and they're like, "Okay," and then that never amounts to anything. It's just Manta being like, "Father said I can stay on the island." He actually says, I'm not making that part up.
Poor Manta.
Stop pandering to me. I'm telling you the truth.
Poor Manta. Yeah, that happens, and I guess this is another scene that I actually like, and I remember when I was watching this episode with Anna, Anna like showing, it's just amazing that where Anna started from to where she is right now, the transition is ridiculous.
I love Anna.
I think everybody freaking loves Anna. It's just like the relationship that she has with Yo, the complete and utter trust she has in this guy. He doesn't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those like this is one of those marry this woman situation.
She's a married woman. That's how you can tell.
No, I mean, I guess technically they are married, but not. I mean, I guess not in the ceremony sense, but that's what they're supposed to do. Like all I can really
No,
say is
I
like
don't disagree at all.
the whole like marry this woman such situation is like what
Oh,
I'm
married
shouting.
this woman, not married ass woman. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were calling her like a married ass woman because she was being so like wifely or something. I'm like, oh, okay.
No, marry this woman. This one,
Yeah.
but it's like at the same time, I mean, it's gonna happen because we now know Yo and her have the same feelings for each other. It isn't one sided. It's just one of those things like I can't believe how much she trusts him. She is literally on the island, just looking at the water, and all she can think about is him. It's like, good gracious.
Yeah, she's really good.
Like, if there's ever been a female character that I think they did a good job with, if all they were going to use her for was a love interest, I think this is probably the best one. This is really what they need to aspire to for every other female chick they do this with.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at you, My Hero Academia. Looking at you, My Hero Academia.
Well, My Hero Academia has the best woman in the entire series.
Moving on before he says the words.
Oh, Wape.
We cut back
Did
from
I
all
say
that.
out loud? I'm sorry.
We cut back from all that, and as I said before, we have like really funny slice of life. After they all are eating and getting like rested, we have Kaleem sneaking in, just like I made the beds, and then they all
I made you bread. I made the beds. Now it's time to die.
well essentially, they all get ready to go to sleep. And then and this is where I guess before they bring up the fact that like how like Yo wants to save how he thinks that he's the princess he needs to save. Then we have an image of like how in a dress.
Yeah, the most uncomfortable thing imaginable.
Honestly, with how androgynous he looks, it's funny how much this works.
You say so.
Because like I mean, I said that Yo looks like his mother, and it's almost uncanny. Hao looks way more like her, and the only reason why he does is the long hair. If you cut that off, Yo and Hao would look almost similar. Well, they would look similar. They're twins.
Well, yeah, it would look exactly similar.
It's just disturbing. It's like I'm looking at his
It's
image.
so annoying that we watched this and we're like, "Who's that girl?"
Yeah, I know. That's the worst part. I remember watching it. And I was like, "That looks like Hao, but it's a girl wearing a dress. There's no way." I remember having that exact thought. I had that exact thought. I never verbally stated it, but I had that exact thought. I was like, "That looks like Hao, but is there a sister character? Is that the mother? I can't tell who that was." And then we found out apparently that's just Hao in a dress.
It's just literally the worst. Yeah.
The funny thing is too, they even feminized them a little bit just to make the dress work.
Yeah, but there's.
I know.
I'm gonna talk about the fact that they're ambiguously sisters and yet like brother and sister and yet they're ambiguously like a love relationship and.
No, they're not. They never. Where did that come from? What?
I mean, the fact that he's the valiant prince trying to save her. And,
Well, I mean that they're just. I mean that's what's saying.
girl, like,
The
to
whole
show
princess.
what she looks like in Yo's eyes, and he's the prince and she's the princess, and like he's gonna come save her, and like oh my god, and then like you're like, all right, this is like.
I mean, I never got the whole like. I think they were treading the line with the whole love thing. I think they're really just treading. It's like this. It's the whole like familial bond, which by the way, Yo should not have with Hal because they didn't grow up together. So
It's very, very, very familiar bond.
I mean, like I said before, like I know the creator is into yaoi.
Especially as much as these guys stay naked. I mean, like, how often is he like, well, better take a bath? Like somebody, or like, better take all my clothes off because it's time for bed, and that's what people do when they go to bed. They take all their clothes off.
Speaking of Hal in the dress, that was the end of the episode, episode 49.
You just had to do that, didn't you?
Yes, I had to take you off the trail because you were going down it and you were not stopping.
I was gaining momentum.
Yeah, I could tell. And I need to stop you from gaining momentum.
Um,
But
let's
What?
Man, let me just check my notes here before we do that. You have to. There was a couple really good, interesting lines here. You have to die to become Shaman King was interesting to me, except that people die all the time in this series, so I didn't know what the significance of that was. And
They
then,
said this before. This isn't the first utterance of this line. This is actually stated a lot throughout the entirety of the show. Well, I mean, after like the first half of the tournament was played out, this was stated.
There was another good quote where Anna was talking, and she said that life is a battle. The more happiness you seek, the more unhappiness there is. And I kind of agree with that. Like, in my life, for example, like my personal business is big enough where I could make it a company if I wanted to. And people are always like, well, why don't you do it? Why don't you make it a company? And I'm like, I don't know, like, I'm happy right now. And people don't understand that. They'd be like, why would you do that? Like, don't you want to be really happy? And I'd be like, I am pretty happy, you know? I don't know if I need to be more happy. And like, people just don't get it. And they're just like, you need to like maximize on your happiness, you know? Like, you need to maximize on your happiness by like monetizing your life, you know, or something like that. And I'm just like, no, I'm like, good, dude. I don't need to make more money. Like, I make enough money and I'm happy enough. And I know I could probably ramp this up and try to found a company or something, but I don't think every single thing in your life needs to be about making as much money as you possibly can. I think sometimes it's okay to just be happy. And like Anna's thing there about like life is a battle, and like the more happiness, like the more happiness you get, like, you know, like that just resonated with me. I was like, yeah, that's how I feel about it. Like, I think that like working as hard as you can for every little scrap of happiness is overrated. So,
You know, I'm reading your notes as you're talking because I was listening. I was trying to figure out like where are these extra notes. This is they got the prog and that see. Oh, so that's the part of the fight that I missed because I actually watched this episode after the credits usually roll. I move on to the next one. Um,
yeah.
not every anime does this where there's like this extra stuff after the freaking credits. It's like how are you supposed to know this?
I always watch all the way to the end now. Ever since Marvel, I've been trained to like watch post-credit scenes.
But not every anime does this, and that's the thing. It's like I guess only in important situation, and then you bring up. I remember because I was so confused. Like, wait, so we're in the middle of the fight now? Okay, this is what we're doing it now.
Yeah.
I literally did not know. Okay, so that explains everything. I now have the full clarity, the context of the fight. Because the post roll credits, we have the fight with Kalim and Ahura or Usui Horiku, who we actually finally get an explanation towards that name. Um, I guess we can move on actually to the episode 50 now, because I guess it's like.
Sorry, that was just the last piece I wanted to hit on. Was just that like she had that really good quote, and it just really struck with me that like.
No, it's no problem. I guess before we move on from this episode, because we'll never talk about this again, unless they bring it back up again. Which this is a Shaman Gang. They're probably gonna bring it back up again. But I find it interesting that they use the words when they're talking about Princess How, that they use the words like she's been possessed by this demon of obsession, and it's like when you really think about it, How is very obsessed with trying to like kill all humanity, and we don't really know the reasoning behind that other than something happened to him when he was alive, and he's been reincarnating himself over and over again, in an attempt to get his ultimate goal. Which you bring up an interesting point. Why give up the dang demon, the dang spirit that you've been like feeding over the course of 1,000 years, just because you don't need him anymore? There is definitely something going on, and I still don't understand it. It's very concerning.
I can't understand if it's pure arrogance or not. It doesn't feel like pure arrogance, but what else would it be?
I don't know. Maybe at this point, as you said before, it's something I was never okay with. Was that maybe Yo is changing how, because like there's been various instances of how being around Yo, and as you said before, just being around Yo makes you a better person. Maybe for whatever reason it's having the exact undesired effect on How, where it's like maybe How is like coming to, like he's just like he's been in this drunken stupor all these years, and he unfortunately when he got reincarnated this last time had the undesired effect of being split into two. Yo being his other half, if we take that literally. So maybe it's one of those things like maybe this is the good like part of like how that got separated, but still a tiny piece of this is gonna sound so wrong. There's a tiny piece of Yo still in Hal.
Oh my god, why would you even say that?
I had to say it after I was on a roll and I just dang it. But I guess before we move on to I guess one last thing I want to say about this too is the fact that I remember when Yo first told everybody that Hal was his older brother. Um, I remember like how Tao Ren saying something that was very weird, and I kind of brushed it off because nothing really came of it. But I'm actually kind of curious. Now we've been talking about the whole splitting of Hal's abilities into two people. Um, Tao Ren says something very weird. He
What
says
is
that
it?
Yo is missing something. Like he doesn't. He's missing emotions or something like that. He's missing like normal emotions that a normal person would have. And I'm actually kind of curious. It's like I wonder if that means anything. Like where like maybe Yo's calmness isn't like normal. It's a symptom of something else. Like what if we were to take literally that maybe Hao and Yo are two people. The whole yin and yang thing. Like
I get the feeling very strongly that they're seen as one person for most intents and purposes. Call me crazy.
I don't know. I just like I was thinking about them when Ren said that, and I thought it was so odd. And I mean, it never came back. But we're like we had two more episodes left, and one of them is going to be a fight with Hal. It's obviously going to be episode 52, unless for other reason you skip over episode like you can skip over, and the fight happens in episode 51. But it just seems kind of weird because like I mean like Hal brings up that that Yo's other half we're gonna be together again or something like that. But it's like but like there's specific wording that like he keeps on calling Yo his other half, and it's like you can take that as a homosexual thing, or you can take that maybe in a literal sense, like maybe
It doesn't
something.
strike me as homosexual. It just strikes me as like
Some people probably would, but
what they're
I
meant to be or something.
I mean I guess what I was saying maybe something happened when he got reincarnated that last time. I don't think there was supposed to be two. Something happened, and he was born as twins. And maybe he initially thought he didn't need Yo when he left off, but like maybe he realized as he was getting older that maybe he needed Yo for something for some reason. Because he keeps on telling that Yo, you will become part of me again. I was like, huh, that's oddly creepy. That's oddly creepy. But I guess that's just something I want to have floating out in the ether as we reach these final episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, episode 50. The Falling Dameco. We finally get an explanation towards Horror and the his unexplained backstory that we get this entire episode. After a rest in the Highland plant for a while, Yo team challenges Kareem again in the midst of the resumption of the mortal struggle. The darkness that Horror hid to everyone is finally revealed in front of Yo and his friends who go through the remaining plants. Okay, I think we're just going to talk about this all free will here, and we can stop and talk about certain things as we come across them. I find it interesting that I guess I should have saw this, because usually when it comes to any character that's edgy, there's like always a girl involved. But I guess because like of the I don't want to use the word dichotomy. There's just like something about Horo's character is it seems like it's two sided sometimes. Like he's always goofing around, so you don't really get that sense of like seriousness from him, or that he has anything serious going on, or he has any serious baggage. But then you had the other side of him where you see it with his father, you see it. You don't really see it with his sister. Like his sister seems to be like on the side of like horror where he's always goofing around. I mean, she has said that she doesn't like him when he's all serious and like that. He actually scares her. I know when I first heard that I was like, that's really weird. Just not reading one of your notes. No, that is not her stripper name. That is not her stripper name.
Is not her real name, so maybe it's her stripper name. I mean, this is Shaman King we're talking about, right?
But we learn in this fight with Kaleem, we actually finally get the explanation. Horo Horo is the name that he was given from this girl that he used to know in high school. When he went to in middle school, I believe, or elementary school for that matter. When he went to school, apparently back in Horo's village, his hometown, we get more information about these people that that believe themselves to be born from the wolf god. That we actually talked about this particular lore very early on. Like I want to say in the first couple of review episodes we did of the anime. So it's kind of cool that like we're getting confirmation that we're on the right track when we were doing those little explorations that we were doing.
Which part are we right about?
The whole like the tribe that Horo is a part of, the
Yes.
wolf god. Like it's cool that we got confirmation. I mean, confirmation like 50 episodes in, but I mean, confirmation nonetheless. Like we were on the right track. So we find out, that they're very religious. They believe that like anybody who isn't part of the tribe is coming in to decimate, the trees and whatnot and the land that they thought that is their birthright. Horror Horror is named specifically after a wolf from that legend. I'm gonna bring up too. It's kind of weird. I didn't notice this, and I guess I just now saw it too. In Horror Horror's like hair. About the hairband, he actually has black hair on like underneath white hair. Like
That's weird. I didn't notice that.
I mean, it's actually you can actually see it in current Horror Horror, but it's like because with his headband on, you don't really pay attention to it because he's got that white fluff on his head.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of cool. Like he's got two different hair colors. That's interesting.
I mean, he did other little things that I felt like introduced us to his depth of character, like when they when you just sort of notice like low key that like he has a recorder, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw that, but it didn't come into play at all in the in the flashback.
It didn't come into play, but like except that like I was like, oh, they're just giving him like this tiny little piece of depth, you know. And then I was like, it's kind of cool that like we get to learn a little tiny new thing about him, even though it's just a recorder. The only time I could think of that interfere, like in being involved in anything, is if he takes the recorder out to somehow disrupt the shaman song or something. But I really think that it was just mostly there just to show us that he had some depth. They were just like, oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, this entire episode is kind of just delving into him as a character. I mean, it's really weird that like we're getting a character info dump this late in the show, but I guess it must be important for something later.
I don't know if it really is. I think that it might just be like just there to do it, you know?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't be against it. I mean, like I said, I want to say that, like, I guess before we go further into his backstory, I actually spent the entirety of my entire life knowing that Shaman King was up there, and again, I never got just to really watch it all the way through. The creator's vision,
Yeah.
and I never knew some of the stuff that was like here in this episode. It actually kind of like shocks me, and I kind of want to say a piece about like early days of dubbing. Part of the reason why, like, at least over here in the Western civilization, for anybody who doesn't, anybody watching or listening that's probably in the Eastern part of the world, probably wondering why people over here care so much about like watching something in the original, in the original sense with no English dub. There was a time over here in the West where big corporations did not care. And kind of still don't care, but I mean, some of them gotten better about it. About like perfect translation, or at least near perfect translation, where something doesn't get lost when you translate something. Because for whatever reason, translating something from Japanese to English, things get lost inevitably. But in some cases, things got really bad over here, where a lot of shows got censored, and censored so hardcore to the point where some things were changed. Uh, I remember watching the original anime for this, and I forgot what happened, but like what's happening now, none of this happened in like the American version of the first show. Um, in fact, like nobody died. There was no blood. Things didn't get dark. It wasn't like it was odd. That's why like when I was watching this, when I first said this is dark, I wasn't really trying to just be funny. I was actually just kind of being real. Like it never got this dark. It's very intriguing that I don't know what happened. Um, one of the and this I'm starting to see the main reason why the creator of the show said that he did not want to make another anime unless they were going to come follow the story from tit to tat.
Uh-huh.
And Now I understand why. He had a story to tell, and he wanted the story to be told. He didn't want nobody coming in here and ruining or trying to dilute what was being told. But
Yeah.
also with that, a lot of things that he probably put in there, that probably wouldn't go over well. A lot of child nudity, being one of them.
Mhm.
Was also just like, because he wanted it to perfect translation. This, I guess, Shaman King to me, I think is a perfect example. I mean, Shaman King, this one, and then Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I think is a perfect example of like, there's a lot of shows back in the early '90s that that didn't get the attention that they deserved because us Westerners didn't. Some things just wouldn't be understood. Um, Perfect example in the Pokemon series, like the very early on when it got dubbed, there was a dubbing error made that was made fun of to this day. Onigiri, rice balls. For whatever reason, America wanted to call those donuts, and I'm not kidding. You can look this up.
Okay.
So I guess like getting off my hot box here, I'm just saying that it's surprising that this show was as dark as it was, and I'm actually glad that it got remade, and it got remade in the I guess in the same vein that Shaman King, I mean the same vein that Fullmetal
It was
Alchemist did.
intended.
So I'm glad that it's getting what it's getting what it deserves. And I think this is like, as far as I can tell from like episode 1 to episode 50 right now, I loved every minute of it. There's some things I got really uncomfortable with. We've already talked about this as we were reviewing these episodes, both me and Jock both. Um, so like I said, like up to this point, I'm actually surprised at how dark the show got, because it started off very happy-go-lucky. Like I am like, you wouldn't believe, like, if you talk to somebody on the street about this show and they say, what was the show like, and it was like, it's really dark. It was like, really? Because I didn't see that much dark going on in the first episode. It's like yeah, things don't get dark until you get to the second half of the shaman fight.
Oh.
Like, I'm actually very shocked. Like, I think actually, I want to say that like the very first couple episodes was kind of the same for the original anime, and then as soon as like the tournament goes to underground, that's where the animes differ. At some point, like they just differed, and I'm guessing maybe it was during the time too when animes are being made when the manga was going on. Unfortunately, the comic wasn't able to get caught up, so they had to be able to make money on the show. They had to like make their own thing and ruin the show. So,
It's incredibly disappointing, all things considered.
well, I mean, yeah, that was like early days of anime. Nobody cared about it. I mean, I mean, in retrospect to this day, it's still like a very small industry. It's unfortunate because these are really good shows that come out of here. I mean, not everything's for everybody, but I think it's ultimately what I want this podcast to really kind of be is like we review episodes, we have fun, but we also talk about things like that where how back in the early '90s or even earlier than that, anime wasn't like as loved as it is today, and it's still got a long way to go. I mean, I don't think it will ever get to Hollywood status. I mean, obviously, but like I think anime deserves.
I don't think obviously is a fair thing to say there, though. Do you?
I mean, honestly, I think so because I I don't want to be pessimistic towards anime because I love it, and it's while I'm doing this podcast. This is like my place, the place I can say what I want about the shows that I watch, and it's my opinion. But I mean, I guess I could say half and half on that whole obvious thing, but I just don't think it's been since like 1980s or whatever, and we're in 2022 right now. I mean, yeah, it's not a long time, but you think a medium like this would have gotten a lot more traction, and maybe what it is that because the main reason why there was like a golden age for this show for the anime series was because Dragon Ball Z. There's a lot of shows that got popular real quick over here. Dragon Ball was one of them. Yeah, actually, Yu Yu Hakusho, Trigun, Cowboy Bebop. There's a lot of shows back in the early '90s, and nobody probably listening who's younger than like maybe 2000s probably even knows what the heck I'm talking about. But there were shows before the ones you're watching that were probably some people would argue have better quality in them. But I mean, we're not here to debate that. Um, Dragon Ball Z, Bleach, there's all these shows. There was a point where something was called the Big Three, and that was specifically Dragon Ball, One Piece, and whatever third show was running at the time. And once Dragon Ball had dropped off, Naruto had moved into number two, and then like another third show was introduced. We had Bleach for a while.
But there was like Pokemon, Sailor Moon. There's
Yeah, I mean
One
the thing is,
Piece.
at the
There's like,
time, a lot of this wasn't like. There's a lot of shows that came out that wasn't known to be anime.
but
It
there's
only,
stuff like
it
there's
only.
stuff very much on the rise right now that's big deal, and then there's stuff that like is deep in people's hearts, even stuff that they don't necessarily know is anime. Like I think is still deep in people's hearts sometimes.
And I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying I don't know if it will ever get to be taken as seriously as like something like something like that Hollywood touched. And maybe that's what we need to fix. Is that maybe we need to start realizing that just because it doesn't have Hollywood's name attached to it doesn't mean it's not good. But
Yeah.
I mean that's going to take like a rewrite of just like how American civilization works, and that's not going to happen unless we completely have a Roman moment. I mean, I don't want to be here if it does happen. There's a lot of signs saying that we might have another Roman moment, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But
What is a Roman moment?
the Roman Empire just like it flat out disappeared. It couldn't sustain itself.
Oh yeah.
I think we might have a situation where we just can't sustain ourselves because I'm hearing a lot recently that democracy can't exactly last forever as much as you want it to. We're kind of seeing that now. We're just like people are like interpreting. I'm not even getting into that, but I guess what I'm saying is like I don't know. Like I mean, I don't want to be pessimistic about this meeting because I do like this meeting a lot, and I guess because I like it so much, that's why I'm kind of trying to be as real as possible. There was a point where I thought when Dragon Ball Z ended, it was like the movement that was behind it was gonna like slow down, and in some ways it did, some ways it didn't. Unfortunately, a lot of the good shows that stay in Japan because of some reason or another will never come over here because of like just random differences. Granted, due to this show, I honestly feel like some shows that I watched in high school could really do with like a chance over here. Because there's a point where I thought like a show with a gun in it in anime wouldn't make it over here because like, ooh, guns and rule regulation. But oh well.
I don't know. I think you're underestimating how powerful some of the other animes are. Like Pokemon. Let's just take Pokemon as an example. Like Pokemon was like, it's popular more than just because it's an anime. It's also a video game. It's like a community. It's like you're not just buying like an anime with it. Like you're ascribing to a whole like culture and way of life that like is contingent on like the anime, like enjoying the anime. So when you think of somebody like really into Pokemon, you're not necessarily just saying like, oh, they're really into Pokemon. You're also saying that like they've got this whole culture that they've become part of, like video games and collectibles and card games and everything else, and it means something deep and like settled in their childhood to them to be involved in it. And I think that's like maybe like part of what you're missing about that. Like it's not just an anime, and Dragon Ball is not just an anime, because let's face it, Dragon Ball is kind of a dumb show. Like there's a lot of things about Dragon Ball that are really dumb, pervy old man, and like
No, I get all that. I just
there's a lot of moments when you watch Dragon Ball when you're like, dude, I don't care what Yajirobe thinks right now, like at all, but you still watch it because it's, you know what I mean, like these are characters that like you become invested in sort of a Stockholm syndrome way, even, like you're just like, I've been watched 800 episodes, like I want to see this through at this point. But like I don't know, I think that's part of it, is that like it's more than just an anime. So like when you say does anime have like legs and Hollywood stuff like that, I think you're forgetting that like there's a whole like, if they don't have legs in Hollywood, it's because they would riot, if they'd be like riots if people screwed it up. Like that would be my first concern as a Hollywood like person. I'd be like, dude, what happens if we don't do it perfectly?
No, I don't want. I guess maybe I should explain. I get the whole culture. I'm a part of it, dude. I literally have played almost every Pokemon game in existence.
Yeah,
I've
and
literally started playing. I'm a
when you're
part of like
talking,
the.
you're like, you
I'm
get a lot of backlash for this. You'll say like so many times when we're talking about like an anime or something. You're like almost afraid to say this because I'm afraid to get the like hear all the backlash that I'm gonna get for going there. But like, and then you'll say what you had your opinion was. But like, it's almost always centered around like the fact that the community is strong, you know, and that you're like,
no,
wow, like there's consequences to dissing the community.
I get all that, and I fully stand by those statements. But what I guess like I don't. Best way to put this is that Hollywood has a pull. I I don't know if like and maybe we'll maybe if maybe it's there and I just haven't seen it yet because like I've been so like dissociated with it all, and like I know that when I was growing up this stuff that I was watching wasn't that cool. It's funny that like I see a lot of like younger kids nowadays, and I see a lot of stuff like there are people walking around with anime shirts on and just like playing games out in the public. Like it's become a lot more like socially acceptable nowadays, and maybe I'm
To an
just
extent,
more.
like it's more socially acceptable in general. Like, I mean, like,
I guess a
what
part of me is
if
like,
you're like, we don't talk about Bruno? Like, somebody agrees with you. Yeah, we don't freaking talk about Bruno. You know, like, there's this whole like pretense that like now, like, look, it's our turn to be adults now, and it's okay if we want to be kids about it. I think there's people that are just sick of like the pretense of adulthood in general.
no, I get all of that. I guess I'm just saying maybe maybe like I even hate to even use these words. I mean, maybe in 9 years, maybe like the world will look a little bit different. I don't know. I just feel like there's a pull there, but I just don't know if it's strong enough to like overtake or like there are things like this exist because anime doesn't have like the voice that a lot of us think it should have, because a lot of these shows, even though they're animated, are real. There's a lot of things to learn. And go back to Dragon Ball Z. Even with all the silliness that's involved in it, there's a lot of like life lessons. Like Gohan, for instance, a lot of people gravitated to Gohan, me included, because when we were watching that show, we were his age. And what did Gohan do? Gohan was able to change the world. At that point, up to that point, we were told that we're a kid. We can't. There's not much we can do. Nowadays, the message changed around and flipped on us behind. They're saying kids have more power than adults do in this world, and a lot of that is true. If you have an interest, go for it. This has turned to a PSA.
Well, also like, if you don't mind my saying, like American stuff is crap now.
I mean, some of it. I mean, there's a lot more of it, but like, there's some things I actually enjoy. Maybe for just because I like watching. But
Other than maybe DC, like what's the best American anything?
well, I mean, House, the TV show, like some of the sitcoms. I mean, a lot of people like to argue that sitcoms aren't good, but it's like, yeah, I don't care.
As far as animation goes, like what's the best American anything as far as animation goes?
Well, there was a point when Cartoon Network's cartoons were actually really decent. I mean, I actually have a lot of like, I have a soft spot for a lot of like. Is Shaolin Showdown American? No, I don't think it is.
Like I don't know. I think that's kind of what I'm getting at though. Like that there's that pretense that like
Shoot, maybe an anime has a chance.
starve for something good. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of stuff out there that's not really that good.
Shoot, maybe there is a chance. I had no idea. I guess like I'm gonna. I guess what I'm gonna sit there say is the end. So we can get back to the episode that we're actually trying to review before we run over.
I was enjoying this though.
No, I know. I was too. We had to reel this in.
Okay.
I guess like, ultimately what I'm saying is that hey, shoot, maybe it's got more pull after having this talk. Like I'm glad I had a chance to say this because like I've had this brewing in my mind for a couple of years. I don't think with a lot of the good shows that started the revolution of anime over here. Maybe like I honestly didn't think it was like okay, maybe it's had its time and it's fun in the sun and maybe it's over. Maybe it will never be able to attack like let's not even use Hollywood like big big entertainment producers like there's no way for it to reach to that pinnacle that that's already reached over here in animation. But I guess there's a reason why Japan's still doing it and there's still new animes coming out and stuff like that is because like at least it has a pull somewhere over there in Japan where it actually matters to a lot of people. It's in their culture, and we're slowly.
I legitimately think it's just a way of life. Like I think that they're selling more than an anime. And
No, I mean I get, I just,
movies out there that do that kind of stuff.
I mean, Pokemon. I think is a different story with the whole like. I mean, I know that entire thing. That's a mega corporation. Honestly, when I hear people saying like, "How can they not make better Pokemon games?" It's like I had to look up the statistics on this, but like the games aren't making a lot of money. It's actually just the anime and this merchandise. It's what's allowing the franchise itself to keep on going. They gotta make the merchandise to make more money. Then that fuels them to make another game. So a lot of things like I mean other merchandise. I mean even though Dragon Ball Z, you can call it a dead franchise. It's not really a dead franchise. They're still selling stuff, and the manga is still going on strong. From what I was able to read.
Probably a gigantic franchise. I don't know very well personally, but I just can't imagine that it's anything but huge.
Well, there are trading cards. I never got involved in them because I looked at one set of cards I got for Christmas and threw them away. I did not know Dragon Ball Z had a card game. I didn't want to go in. I didn't want to go further down the rabbit hole.
That's pretty funny though.
Already gone down one rabbit hole. I've already wasted a lot of my life in it, so I'm not gonna. Unless I like Dragon Ball Z, love you to death. But I'm not going down any more rabbit holes with you other than the anime and maybe the video games. But those are like. But I mean, I guess to get back on the rail because we derailed for like 30 minutes probably. Oh, 20 minutes. Okay.
I don't know. I didn't keep track.
Me either. I guess we're talking about how we got on this the whole depth of Horror's character. I find it interesting that it started out like dealing with a girl, and then it just like mushroomed into this whole like how he blamed himself for what happened to her, and I guess like in some cases a lot of times when this happens, it's never the main character's, it's never the character's fault. It's not really his fault because she went after him in that snow, but he blames himself because like she would have never went in there if it wasn't for him. We have like the biggest revelation, and I'm sitting here kicking myself that I never even thought about it. But maybe the main reason why I never thought about it is because like her name was never dropped. We didn't know a dang thing about him, so there's no way we could make this speculation. The spirit companion that Horror has been traveling with this entire series is actually that girl reincarnated as a spirit for like for those spirits that he's trying to save. It was like, to me, it was probably the most like for a character that's like trigeners. I don't even know how I pronounced it. Like the third, I guess not. I don't know if you consider him a third main character, but I will say it's like a side character, like one of the more important side characters. He that whole revelation was actually really cool, and I was like, I'm glad that Horror got a happy ending for that, because it seems like he had been beating himself up the entirety of his life, thinking that this girl like probably died hating him, all because of him sticking to his tribe's ways of living, and like I guess trying to be somebody that he's not, or being somebody that he thinks he's being told that who he is. And I guess it's one of those things. I guess a good way to take what he went through is like a growing moment where he realized that you can only be who you want to be, and screw everybody else. I guess it's the best way to sum that up. It's like, he had spent his entire life trying to be somebody that his father. I guess you can see a lot of his hatred kind of makes a lot more sense now, and we got confirmation about why he wants to make that field anyway, because like that was like the weirdest dream ever stated I've ever seen in an anime. I want to make a field of lily pads when I become Shaman King.
I know, but I love the depth that they built into Horror with that. Even
yeah, I know, that's why I said I like that. That was the best payoff for a side character I have ever seen.
Yeah, the whole surprise of it and everything else, and like the tragic backstory, and the fact that it's not only like it was like Shakespearean, like the fact that like his people like had died in the flood, and he fell in love with like the one person that he shouldn't fall in love with, and he rejected her, and now he lives a life of guilt, and it's just like really well put together. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I also loved the whole like how she became a spirit too, and how she couldn't reveal to him who she was until she had heard from him why, why he ran away from her that night. And
I mean, the whole like I'm briefly able to reveal myself to you was like a little bit stupid, but like other than that,
yeah, I would say I was kind of disappointed by that.
briefly, ever so momentarily, I'm like, yeah, okay.
But yeah, it was really cool. I mean, I guess to really put a bow on it, it's like I love that. Like, okay, that's why they really wanted to like they really wanted you to not know about anything about him and not really care, and then they started like pulling back these sheets saying that we still haven't revealed what's going on with him. You know, we introduced you to him very early on in the show, and we didn't say anything about him. In fact, nobody questioned it. If I don't let nobody actually did question it.
It's true.
It's like we literally planted him
But
in
the
like the.
audience just kind of being like, yeah, yeah.
It's like,
The writers, I mean.
yeah, I know. It's like, yeah, we're not gonna tell you anything about him until it's actually important.
Oh, were you ignoring Horo Horo? Well, guess what? He's relevant. It was very mean.
I mean, I always knew I liked Horo Horo, but this really solidified that for me. I didn't know why I liked Horo Horo, but I know I always liked him as a character and
I like
everything.
Horo Horo too, to be honest with you. I know I've been giving you a hard time about him, but that's just me being me. Like, I did kind of like Horo Horo.
I don't know why. I had no real reason to. Now I can sit there and say that okay, this is probably the best payoff for a character that I honestly didn't think was going to get anything done with him and character wise. And it's like, okay, I'm actually happy. We don't have to see him ever again if that's what's going to happen to him. I hope not, considering that he's supposed to be one of the greats for warriors. So
I think all of the core warriors have to survive. I don't think that's like up for debate.
I mean, we'll
If
see.
you're one of the warriors that has a great spirit, like from a plot perspective, I think you have to stay in the movie, in the show. I mean, I feel like that's the plot armor line right there.
Yeah, that makes good gracious 3 pages, 4 pages. Okay, we're gonna have to condense this. Well, not condense it, but we're gonna have to. I guess.
What, did I go too far? Oh yeah.
No, no, not that. It's just that I didn't notice you had like you said it took you forever. Like I didn't realize how forever was.
Sorry.
I'm looking at no, it's fine, it's fine. You had fun. That's all that matters.
Can we just point out at 8:12 where you was like, "Whoa, you had a hot girlfriend."
Well, I mean, look, I was gonna,
full ass grown man.
I was gonna
And
just.
She must have been like 12 when she died.
I was just gonna like, I guess. I'm pretty sure what it is. The Ryu isn't old. He just looks old. How old is Ryu?
Come on, Ryu's got to be like 30.
No, I'm pretty sure what really that is, and I hate to even say this because it's something I haven't seen anime do in a while. Sometimes a character will be not that much younger than he looks, but like I mean, he's younger. Like he looks younger than he actually is. It's like I'm not old. I'm actually blah blah blah. There was a character in Hunter x Hunter that was like that. He looked like he should have been in his 20s, but he was actually 18.
Okay. And I believe you and everything, but like he doesn't look like he should be 18.
They do not have an age for him. I guess ages don't really matter in this show for reasons unknown to me.
Because they're not relevant at all. There's nothing relevant about anybody's age in this series. They're all basically 50.
Oh well, whatever. I mean, I guess all they really did that is for the break the tension.
Is relevant in any way, shape, or form. Like everybody is basically a grown-ass adult.
And we can start with these are preteens, but we're just gonna move on from that. I get they did that whole thing with Rio to I kind of just moved on from it after it happened. I was like, well, they're doing this again. I just moved on from it.
Did you figure it out?
No, I don't know because they didn't give an age for him.
Because they're not allowed to because it's illegal. Okay, so that being said, they go to the next biome. It's a forest biome with Renan, I guess, and a chameleon spirit, and he's like the weakest, lamest enemy so far. As far as I can tell, there's nothing redeeming about him. He's just weak and lame. What do you think?
Oh, the chameleon spirit. Oh,
He gets his ass kicked.
Well, that's only because I mean I think doesn't last source say something that if it wasn't for Opakacho, they probably have some trouble.
Yes, because he's tricky, not because he's like worthwhile in any specific way.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I mean, because he couldn't do anything, we don't really know.
He gets one shot. They're like, aha, I'm hiding, and they're like, aha, we see you. And this little kid with 800 for Yuku just comes over and one shots you. He had 800 for Yuku. 800. That's nothing. Do you know how much for Yuku the next weakest guy has? 12,500. The strongest guy in the group, 120,000? No, 197,500. He had 800 for Yuko and he one shot at the guy. I understand that like abilities aren't everything, but like they're a little bit. It's like a rabbit kicking you in the knee and you go down. It wasn't even that much of a surprise attack. He talked to him before he hit him. He's like, "You woke me up," and the guy's like, "Ah!" And he flies into a wall, and then it's all over, folks. Am I being too comedic about this?
No, I mean, what I guess that guy, he's supposed to be Chocolo's overseer.
Okay. And that gives him like a magic power over. I get that, like for some reason, then that makes it your fate to like be up against that guy, but at the same time.
No, I guess what I'm saying is like it's kind of weird considering that Chocolo's like I guess the strongest Fuyuroku wise amongst the group, and that guy got one shot. I guess this was basically what I was trying to say.
Well, overseer or not, Chocolove's potential is way beyond anything that they can pull out, in my opinion. Chocolove like didn't get his potential met because of his overseer. Chocolove got his potential met because he's really
no. What I'm saying is kind of weird that was what happened, and I mean, yeah. I guess he wanted to get him out of there. I mean, especially we only have so many episodes left. I'm guessing that's why he got the shaft.
Because the writers wanted to move on.
Yeah. We have so many episodes left, and it's like, well, we're gonna put you in here, and I'm gonna get you out immediately.
We need some comic relief, one way or the other.
I guess we can start talking about Opakacho here, and I guess the importance of he or she towards Hao, the princess.
Okay.
To sum up, we learn about how. Gotta choose the better word for that. We learn about the mind reading abilities, and essentially, technically speaking, everybody's got a tiny bit of like psychic ability in them. It just depends on how much they want to read somebody's mind. Still doesn't explain hows though, but we learned that apparently it's all about being lonely, and funnily enough, we learned a little bit more about Anna, like how she was like a lot of what happened with her is that her parents left her, and that left her to look at every person around her as somebody that's just gonna straight up use her for something and then leave. That in turn turned into hatred, which gave her psychic abilities a little more power, and eventually what led to her being able to form demons of her own. It's an interesting way to look at like psychic abilities, and it kind of just makes the power a little bit like sad. Like I guess in this world, like if you see someone with psychic abilities, you just kind of like you feel bad for them. Like it's kind of a weird way to look at the ability to read the mind, but I guess in reality, it isn't. Like it's a cool power in concept, but like I mean, like how Opakacho said, I can't get any sleep with all that loud thinking that you're doing. It's like when you really think about it like that, like you can't turn that ability off. It's just on, and like when you're near somebody, it's just on. You can't stop it.
It makes it really sad, doesn't it?
Like when you really think about it, like I mean, you always think about my reading is cool because you can read someone's mind, and like it's still cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, the power is still cool in concept, but I guess when you really think about like the downsides, which is like one big downside, but it's still a downside nonetheless based on the way the show's portraying psychics. You can read people's minds and essentially get a good glimpse into what they're really like, And I guess in reality, that's a bad thing because part of why people like put on a facade for sometimes is just you don't want. Sometimes being your true genuine self sometimes can lead to really bad situations and just people not really liking you
Yeah.
in a really messed up way. It's like you know, um, I was watching this show where they kind of brought that whole concept to you about like this is why people lie. And like when you couldn't lie, just the whole world just spun out of control. I was like, that's funny actually. But I thought it was kind of interesting how they kind of turned psychic abilities into like a if you have the ability to read minds, that means you had a really sad upbringing, or you just like you're lonely. It's a really weird way to put like for how to put it, and apparently I think from the way at least Yo explained how explained it was I don't think that kid's a kid. I think it's a spirit. I could be wrong, but because he said it reminded him of a friend he had back 1,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't really interpret that. I'm not sure how to interpret it, but it sounded like that's basically.
It sounded like he reminded him of the spirit, but not necessarily.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to piece together. I don't know if he was a spirit or not, based on the way he sounded, but I mean,
I felt pretty confident he wasn't a spirit. I'm pretty confident he just reminded him of someone that like meant a lot to him once.
Okay, we'll go with that. I mean, until it's already stated.
You know what's funny is Heian. He's named after Heian.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, he's named after a Heian name, but Heian means peace in Japanese, which I thought was super interesting.
That explains why he said Heian, huh? I was wondering why he said that.
A peaceful name, yeah. Well, it also references an era from 794 to 1185 in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But Heian like is very strongly associated with peaceful, because I remember when I took Shotokan karate when I was younger, I had a couple katas that I would do, which are like karate, like sort of like dances, where like you have a series of motions that you have to repeat to be tested for that belt. And three of the ones I had were Han, Sandan, Han, Shodan, and Han Nidan, and they all meant peaceful and then something else. And so when I heard Han, I recognized it. I'm like, oh, I learned the word Han a long time ago because it's common use in Japan for peaceful. So I know that it's also a historic era, but like the fact that it meant peaceful it's not like a weird piece of trivia. If you've taken karate, like, because Heian Shodan, for example, I also learned in other forms because I took a Kempo, for example, and I believe I had to do a Heian and something in Kempo as well. So just interesting little reference there that it meant peaceful, because it just seems like peace is kind of like the direction the whole series is headed in anyway. So I just thought I'd throw that out there as like a really interesting little piece of trivia that I picked up.
I mean, that makes what I was watching make more sense now. So that was good. I didn't know that. I was wondering why he said Heian, huh? I was like, okay, so he's like in peace, huh? I guess that's another tip in the hat. Like, yeah, I guess something's going on with how I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I don't know. I had a lot of fun when I saw that, and I was just like, ah, cool.
Well, after they take care of Chameleon Man, they move on to the seventh plant.
Such a loser.
Like we go into this.
It's like a jabroni. Is that the proper use of the word jabroni?
I have no idea. I don't know what jabroni means. You're asking the wrong person.
Basically, battle fodder.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then yeah.
Fall guy.
The seventh planet, the cavern, and we finally deal with Necrom and his hatred for Ren. I guess the best way to sum this entire, it's a growing moment for Ren yet again. He's having a lot of these moments. Ren's fighting Necrom, and he's manhandling him, I guess the best way to put it, into, revealing how he really feels about him, because Necrom, if people don't remember, Necrom is the younger brother of the patch officiant that was overseeing Tao Ren back when Tao Ren was a douchebag.
Do you have any idea what a Kalem is when he says, oh, you're trying to be a Kalem-san?
Kalem was just the last guy, the last guy that, the guy that was Horror Overseer.
Oh, okay.
That's who he was.
Also means, I looked it up because I didn't know what it meant. and the baby name means speaker or like greater, bigger, senior. So it made me think that like he was trying to say you're trying to be a master. Maybe like was the translation I was thinking might be possible,
Was
but I wasn't
probably.
sure.
I mean, but I just know that Caleb was one of the names of one of the pacifists they took down.
That's okay. I was just curious if you had any idea because I thought that was one of that's the kind of thing I look for as part of my contribution to the podcast. But it seemed like Caleb was focused around that. But if it's one of their names, it also was connected to a metal, right? Because all the shaman like overseers had metal related names. Am I correct?
I mean, I thought that's what you told me before. I don't know where you put those
What
notes.
are the heads of what are the overseers, shaman overseers names? Is that what they are? Just overseers?
Yeah, but that's what they officially call as the overseers, or like they're supposed to be like a patch officiants or whatever.
Oh, patch efficients. Thank you. So we know that their names are like all connected to different types of metal. So Kalum is connected to potassium, which is it's a Japanese word for potassium.
Mm-hmm.
Silva is silver, Goldva is gold, chrome is chromium, nichrome was nichrome, which is nickel chromium alloy. Magna was magnesium, rhenium is rhenium, whatever the hell that is. Rhenium is a really obscure thing to pick. I'm trying to see if there's anything useful about it. It has the third highest melting point and boiling point of any stable element, I guess is the only thing that like it looks like a silver metal to me. It was the last stable element to be discovered, I guess, and it's named after the Rhine in Europe. Anyway, Bron is boron. I thought that was bronze. I'm surprised. Because he was such a like tank, and bronze sounds like a tanky metal to me, but it's boron, which is like a metal that melts in your hand, which is really weird. Like its boiling point is so like its melting point is so low that if you put it in your hand, it melts.
Hmm.
Radium is radium. Namari is lead. Thallium is thallium. Rutherford is rutherfordium, which is a really obscure metal in my opinion. Zinc is zinc, and alumni is aluminum. Alumni is aluminum, but so Callum is potassium, but it also meant overspeaker. So I wonder if he had. Do we know if Callum had like a speaker role, and it was like a double pun?
Um, what was the other word you used? It was like over something because it seemed
What
like that's what
for
he
Callum?
did, huh?
I said overseers, but he's a patch tribe officiant. But I'm curious if he had a role among the people as like a speaker or something like that, because that's interesting. He frequently provides a voice of reason to quell Silva's desire to interfere in the shaman tournament. So that's what the wiki says, but it's interesting that they accidentally say the voice of reason because he was a voice, and that's one of the meanings of his name.
I mean, he was one of the voices. He was the one keeping Necrom in check
Yeah.
half the time.
So if you think of someone as being the senior or the speaker, which are the two of the biggest meanings of the name, it's funny that his name is both a pun against metal, but also like kind of like speaks to his personality.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Didn't really think about
Sorry.
that. I literally took that literally as don't try to be Callum because I know that Callum had some, he looked up to him, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I guess in all that, Ren's slapping him silly, trying to get him to get mad. He's like Ren is being surprisingly zen for somebody who's kicking someone else's butt, but but
Yeah, but I was trying to help him.
yeah, I know. At the same, it's just kind of funny how much he was doing that to him, beating him up. That he was just like he kept this calm, which is surprising considering that up to this point Ren hadn't been like that. Half the time
Yeah.
Ren was impatient, so seeing him do that here was like an interesting change of character, showing that he is growing. We see that actually still at the end of this fight too. But he essentially says to him like, "I know you hate me. Come on, like let the hate come out and stuff like that." And apparently he was saying no. I am. Thanks.
Sorry, I had to say
Dang
it.
it, Chuck.
I
But
had to do it.
he essentially he's like let like hate me. Come on. He's just like he didn't want to because he was a passive fishing. Another one of those situations where like someone trying to be something that they're not. And in this case, he was trying to be he's trying to look the other cheek on the situation, but he was hating him. Eventually led to him like finally actually thanking him for like thanking you for I guess letting him get this anger out. And Ren thanks him back for letting him be able to I guess hit him at full force. essentially leads to like Ren just flat out killing him. We also learned that apparently Nikram had his older brother's spirit as well, and he was using it on his legs. And we'll see. It was actually almost very strong too, to the point where I guess if only he wasn't like just hating on Ren, he probably could have actually been of use to them if he wasn't such a,
Sure.
jerk. Uh, he looked like he could have been really useful. He's like probably one of the more useful ones. I would say like maybe third useful after Silva. Well, I think Silva's like the most useful, but we'll get to that later. Um, let's see here. Oh yeah, the poison. Like Ren got hit with poison a lot here. If I think correctly. I guess we can talk about this here. I think it was a conversation you wanted to have here about that poison.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know we put it off so late, but I don't know. Before we get to that, I was another cool quote here that Ren says, "If the heart is immortal, how do you kill the hatred in your heart?" What did you think of that?
It's just another one of those questions about how do you defeat all the hate in the world, and I honestly don't think you can. You can do your best to satiate it. I guess the best way to put it. Give
It's
it.
such an interesting like this. I feel like when we watch these episodes, a lot of times like episodes double up on single themes. Like
Well, I mean, Ren had always this had been his entire goal ever since he lost to Yo that one time and had Yo's help after defeating his father. One of the goals for Ren was to take on the world's hatred. I think. I mean, actually, he came out in class said that he wanted to atone for what he did. Um, but eventually, I think it evolved into wanting to quell the world's hate
yeah, I mean,
somehow.
I don't disagree in the least. I just think it's like I mean, I've had episodes where I've come in and all I did the entire like prep for the episode was like read mythology, and then I've had other episodes where I'd message you beforehand. I'm like, dude, just FYI, like there is nothing in this for me to research, and I've given you a heads up about that. And this is like one of those cases where I was just like, um, I just felt like I was like, is this another theme that they're just kind of latching onto, like the whole theme of like these two episodes are about like getting philosophical and giving you like spoilers about like building up, not spoilers, but building up philosophically to the climax. Like they have all these direct quotes, about Ren saying like, I've got to kill the hatred in my heart, I don't want to be the same person. But like that's such a model for what they're trying to do with Hao. You know what I mean? Hao's own struggle to overcome the hatred in his heart. And there's like, so there's a moment right there, and then there's like, I don't know, just a lot of other moments like this that I'm seeing throughout, and I'm just like, they're trying to like psychologically build up to an endpoint here where, you know what I mean, where we learn like what's going to happen. And like I just think that's super cool, that they're like gearing up for it.
I
So
get that. I'm
to
saying
me,
that
this
this
is
is
all a
how.
pretense build up to like the last episode where they confront him and like they've covered all this stuff.
I mean, yeah, I think ultimately what's going to happen is that at first everybody here doesn't want anything to do with like they want to just kill Hao is what everybody else wants to do here, but Yo's the only one coming down here not wanting to kill him.
Which I get, and that's super literal like interpretation of what I'm talking about. But like at the same time, like I don't know, it just feels like
Okay, I want to I guess to solve the riddle of that poison thing and how like the I literally just saw like after the fight ends, we see
okay,
Faust fade away from Yo like he was in his body. So
using it, yeah.
yeah, I didn't even see that, which is weird because that looked like it was very very obvious.
Yeah, it felt to me like that's exactly what was going on. That like they were implying that like he was channeling his ability.
No, I mean I get what you're saying with the whole like this philosophy. I can't even say that word. Jeez, English man, do it. Uh, philosophy of like they're just dealing with like can we like is everybody I guess ultimately what I can take from this ultimate question is like I think
The
like
early
is
episode,
everybody
100% in my mind.
Everybody has like you can reach everybody and anybody as long as you try hard enough. Granted, to me, I don't think Hal was worth it, but apparently Yo thinks he's worth it, so I'm here for the ride.
Yeah. Jeremy is so here for it, folks.
That's all I'm here for. Like, I don't think Hal's worth it, but like, I mean, if you can almost redeem somebody like Frieza and still not do it, then
Are
I
we
mean,
really talking about Frieza now?
sorry, I had to.
We did have to, didn't you?
But honestly, if you can come close to redeeming some, like giving a redeeming quality of a character who you spent most of your life hating, I guess you can redeem a character like Hal. And just like he's related to the main character, and like I guess this is what they're ultimately going to do. I have no idea what's going to happen here. I am very intrigued at what's the ultimate end goal for Hal. But like, I guess we'll just see what happens. It looks like redemption's the only way out of this fight, because I guess the interesting thing that Ren says, like, what can he like? He's afraid of like what the hate will do to him. Will he manifest a demon of his own one day?
Sorry,
Jesus,
I had something in my throat there for a second.
get the frog out, man, and get Froppy out as well. Jeez. But it's interesting, like how he's afraid of like manifesting his own demon, which listed a whole thing that House said that everybody's got like a tiny bit of like psychic ability within them. It just depends on like how, like what their life was like leading up to the manifestation of their psychic ability. Again, it's a really sad ability. It really, when you really think about it in this world, it's like, wow, it's really weird like how psychic abilities will just suddenly pop up, and it really has to do with the fact, huh?
They isolate you in a way.
Yeah, isolation is the biggest key, was the biggest word there to use, was like isolating yourself. It's like, I really don't want psychic abilities in this world.
Yeah, they sound like a curse.
I think it is supposed to be a curse. It was a very interesting way that he put it, and it's just kind of cool that Ren makes reference to it too. It's like, well, I'll be able to do this, and Yo's like, you like if you can't do it, you can just you got us. And if you don't need us, you can just use love. And literally comes out to him and says like, get married, have a kid. And I was like,
he's basically love and peace, love and peace.
Dang it, you
like
Trigun reference.
Marco, who's very much like Bash, and then Yo turns all guile on him and says, "Go home and be a family man."
Dang it.
It's exactly what happened.
I also want to point out too, at this point, Ren's like blushing, so I'm guessing he has some girl in mind. I don't know who it is.
Ren is?
Yeah, Ren is blushing there for a hot second. It's very light, but you can tell he has a girl on his mind, and I don't know who it is. My theory is it must be the lady. What's her name? Shoot. Iron Maiden.
That's like naked every 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Do you think anyone has feelings for the woman that's like pure and innocent yet naked all the time? I have no idea, Jeremy. I can't imagine that somebody would find this pure, innocent, like, revered naked woman and they'd be like, oh, I kind of like her.
Listen here, man. I'm pretty sure Ren's a virgin.
Sorry.
Jeez.
Did I go all the way with that?
Yes, sorry. You did. Yes, you did. You didn't come back. You didn't come back for 5 seconds. Yes, with that, we go past that after the whole revelation. Necrom's been defeated, put in the ground. We go to the next plant, and literally, there's a plant guy. I find this guy interesting. At the same time,
how do you feel about the earth shaking? Before they do that, the earth shaking pulses that come from Hal's area, they're like, oh, everything's getting shaky, and then like you kind of like, that's all you hear about it.
I mean, all I said when I heard that was like, because you took a day off, you idiots.
You're like, you know what we should do, everybody? Let's take a nap.
I mean, that's exactly what happened. That's why the shaking's happening.
I don't exactly blame them for it. It wasn't a terrible idea. Like, they all got their Ryugu back, and they probably would have lost otherwise, but still, it was a nap. Y'all took a grown-up nap,
But we come back. They go through waiting. We gotta get to the end, guys, and then they make the plant guy, and the plant guy is just owning every single one of them with just all kinds of plants.
Yeah. I tried really hard. I documented all of them here, and some of them are really silly, like skunk cabbage. But like none of the plants, they weren't from any specific place. They weren't from any like specific time era. They didn't have any specific common element in all their like anything. So I think they were just plants. I think he was just trying to show how biodiversity was. Like
I want to.
nice. I have one of those out in my yard, and it's just a really pretty vining flower, but that's all it is.
I have a question for you. Of all the plants that this guy could have been in, do you think he was placed in the wrong environment?
The forest plant?
Yeah, I feel like he could have been in the forest plant. Like if they just moved that backwards and put the sea back where the other guy was, I feel like that would have been a lot more difficult to deal with.
I wouldn't have minded the forest plant, but I mean, I guess I see what you mean. You mean like the ocean biome?
Yeah, that he was in. He was like, it just seems like, to me, it was like, I guess they really did that for Chocolo's sake. But I guess it kind of like, I guess what I want to talk about here is like, after Chocolo completely obliterates all his plants with the wind, I feel like, and maybe it's more evident here than it was when he first started this trek.
Yeah.
I think with how badly some of these guys were matched up with like the plants that they were in, to me it almost seems like it was done on purpose. Like, I think they wanted them just to kill them just to show how they were doing their job. But I don't think they really wanted to, like, I mean, you said this before, but I think it's kind of more evident here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think maybe this is the point, like, because like to me, why would you put the guy with the seeds over soul on a tropical beach setting? Like, to me, he would be a lot more useful where the plant was, or the forest was, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, to me, it would make more sense. Like, if they had put him there, they wouldn't have gotten past him. And that's why I started thinking, like, maybe that's the point.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of half-heartedness going on in this. Like,
I mean, they bring it up too. Is like, were they going like all out? Yo was like, I'm pretty sure they're going all out, or maybe they're not. So I'm like, that's why I start thinking.
That, like, nobody's used their shaman song in a long time, so that could be a hint, or maybe it's not. I don't know for sure.
I mean, when like, I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But like when he first said, I was like, I started thinking, I was like, wait a minute, why was the plant guy inside the forest? Like, or at least let him run into the forest where the beach was, because there were trees near him.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's why I'm wondering if this was just all like a facade, like, you know.
Yeah.
They were just doing this to show how.
The value alone of having him in the ocean would have been great. They could have been like, kelp, I need somebody, kelp,
dang
not
it.
just anybody, kelp. Sorry.
Dang it. Is that wrong? And that's why I'm saying dang it.
Is it because like nobody's like heard of any like what's 3 ocean plants?
Coral, I think, can be considered an ocean plant.
Coral is a lot an animal.
I think it's also a plant. I think you can actually. I think
No,
that's grows.
Coral's always an animal.
Seaweed.
Yeah, but seaweed is just a weed of the sea. Like, what's a specific? Like, if you can't name one, then probably the average animated watcher can't name one either. Which is a really good reason not to.
Red algae, seagrass, sarginium.
Yeah, so you don't know. So.
I'm actually naming them because I looked up plants of the sea.
What is your algae power literally going to be?
And also, coral is a plant.
Coral is not a plant.
Yeah, it says it here.
Where do you link me? Because it's coral is like little like animals. There's no plant coral.
How is a coral a plant? 'Cause you don't see those things move. They just sit there. I know not all things in the sea move.
Look, type is coral a plant or an animal in Google, and it will say straight on animals.
You know, I just don't see them breathing. For the most part, even like some of these plants, you can see them actually kind of breathing and using the water around them.
And what's your point? It doesn't matter what you see. It's still an animal.
How? Because like that doesn't make any sense. Like how does coral even form then? Like that doesn't make any sense.
Coral forms on the shells of previous coral.
How did the coral get there in the first place?
The same way anything gets there in the first place. What are you talking about?
Doesn't make any sense. I guess what I'm saying is like, cause like coral always these like beautiful things in the ocean that glow. They have like various shines and colors. I always saw them as plants. I mean, honestly, I guess I didn't know what they really were, but it just isn't something. But that just doesn't make any sense to me. I guess somebody said don't destroy coral reefs, but still.
Are you about to get on like a...
No, I'm not about to get into a whole like this shouldn't be a thing. I'm just saying that it doesn't make any.
I know what you're like when you get started.
What's a barnacle look like, real quick?
Barnacles aren't that different, yeah.
Oh, well, they have a moving organ. Corals don't. I'm gonna stop looking at barnacles. Those making me uncomfortable. Just so many teeth. Oh,
Teeth? What are we talking about again?
barnacles. No, I just saw a little. I saw something that looked like a lot of tiny teeth. Then it was reversing a barnacle picture. Ugh.
Okay.
No, just a lot of tiny teeth. I just didn't. It made me uncomfortable. But okay. How did we even get into like the coral? What were you even? Oh yeah, sea plants.
Yeah, you were like, why didn't you have an ocean biome? I guarantee that ocean
No,
biome...
I mean I wasn't talking about. I said I wish they kind of put them inside of like a forest. I could care less of an ocean biome. I was saying like, why did they? Like, I feel like to me maybe it was just a story thing where they didn't want to stop them. I guess that's basically what I was getting at. Was like I don't think they wanted to stop them because some of the choices that they had, like some of these guys in, is like to me wasn't the winning strategy. But maybe that was the whole point. Maybe it wasn't trying to be a winning strategy. They were just trying to look how we're trying to stop them so you can become Shaman King, so you don't have to kill us.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. I think they were like, quote unquote, doing their duty.
Yeah, he said duty.
Duty.
I guess as we close up here, we're gonna talk a little bit about like Chocolove, and I find it interesting that Chocolove was trying to find a medium to be able to take down these plants, and what he came up with was literally using the air around him, well, wind, I should say, the wind around him, and using it as a medium to channel both spirits into. And he even says that apparently it was sucking up the spirit, his Shiroku, faster than he could channel it, which is like, that's all. I mean, I guess it makes sense because there's a lot of wind around you, so I guess like air. I guess it makes sense like he's trying to channel air. But it was really interesting to see that. Okay, so that's what all that Furyoku is for. So he can do that. But he was.
It was pretty impressive that he was able to do it. I was surprised.
But I guess it makes sense. I mean, like he's supposed to get the spirit of wind. I guess is what his spirit is going to be for his warrior. I don't know what these spirit warriors are going to be doing with these spirits of fire and water, well, rain, thunder, earth. I almost said heart, and I was about to get upset with myself.
Oh, Planet, Captain Planet, he's a hero, gonna take pollution down to zero, gonna help us put us under. Guys, who would you like to?
Well, this is something interesting before we end this episode off here. I didn't know that the next biome was glacier. I was actually wondering.
Captain Planet, go Planet, we're the Planeteers. You can be one too, because saving our planet is the thing to do. Looting and polluting. Why have you not?
He's watched a lot of like Captain Planet, and I can't tell if this is a cry for help or something.
No, it is such a cry for help. Looting and polluting is not the way. Okay.
You done?
I think so.
But I'm really waiting for you to break back in with the song. But I did not know that where Silva was like a glacier. I don't know what I was looking at when I was seeing him up there looking like skulking, but I guess that makes sense because I guess that's the only other biome besides space that they got to get to. I'm guessing is what essentially what you deduced this from. I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
I still don't get the whole idea of space as like an environment that they had to protect when they left the Earth, but like, I guess you do you with it, you know.
I guess how can exist on Earth? I'm guessing. I have no idea.
Yeah, let's protect the delicate environment of outer space where there's like one alien.
Spice.
No, really, because that's the whole pretense. They're like, yeah, there was an alien. I'm channeling one alien that came 1,000 years ago or whatever, 10,000 years ago, and that's like all they have. And they're like, this one alien, and we have a whole like plant for the spirit of one alien. Does
Yeah,
that strike you as like a moral like impertuity or what?
I mean, they've already said that the Moo people were technologically advanced, but they didn't really mean that they were smart.
And just think about like how you started that statement. You said, "I think what they were saying was," and then you said, "the Moon people." Like,
No, I said the Moo people, the Moo people of Moo. I didn't say Moon
No.
people. The
I thought you
people
said
of
that.
Moo.
Sorry.
The people of Moo. Now, I mean, technically speaking, I guess they couldn't be considered Moon people because I don't know where the heck they are. I mean, based on all that, I mean, you're making a big deal about a race of people, a civilization, I should say, that disappeared after they just made this entire environment, which is still unbelievable. It's still underneath the earth, and nobody discovered it. Like, what? So,
I'm a magical shaman, so I'm more willing to buy that than a lot of the other stuff that we've had shoved down our throats.
but at the same time, these people that that made this, you're complaining that they made an environment of space underneath. They don't exist anymore. I mean, like, who knows what happened to them? I'm still willing to believe there's somebody from that civilization that's probably around and is probably in the past tribe. We probably won't see them until like very late. But for right now, we all know that they're gone. So like, I mean, honestly, the whole space thing, they weren't that smart. So I'm more willing to just like let it be one of those things. Like maybe they had like Billy Bob of the Moo over here saying that I'm gonna build
Billy
this
Bob
space.
of the Moo. Did you just say
Yes.
Billy Bob of the Moo?
Yes.
In all earnesty, that's what you just said.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to be absolutely freaking clear that you said Billy Bob of the Moo. It sounds like a string of nonsense. Billy Bob of the Moo.
I mean, basically what I'm saying is like, I mean, based on like all that, and they don't exist anymore. Like, and they weren't the smartest civilization. They were technologically advanced for sure, but that didn't translate to intelligence. I'm willing to believe that maybe this was an oversight.
Like an intergalactic Jode family or something. They're just like, I'm Billy Bob of the Moo. Come on and join me in my trucker love, trucker spot of love.
I guess with that we can end the podcast. The next two episodes.
That is my cue that it's time to stop. Is that what you're doing?
I don't really have much more to say. I literally kind of said all I could say. Unless you have something else to add.
The magical spear has told us that it's time to go away now.
I mean, do you have anything else to add besides making fun of what I said?
No, I just think Billy Bob of the Moo is really freaking funny. That's all.
I'm glad I was able to get a laugh at you. I couldn't think of any real name. I was just like, I'm gonna go with this. So we're gonna run with the analogy. I guess what I'm basically saying with them is like they weren't. I guess from what we were being told, they weren't the smartest people. So the space thing, even if it was just for one alien, probably tells you that they weren't the most intelligent, and maybe that's why they don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Because they weren't that smart. The entire thing is outlandish, but I mean, this is an anime, so.
I like it.
Whatever they say goes. And with that, we're going to end the podcast. And the next two episodes will be the finale of the Shaman King.
Are you going to miss it?
Honestly, I'll be glad I managed to experience this piece of history that's been bugging me for the last like 10 years.
I've had a good time with it.
I'm enjoying time with it. I probably, after all this is said and done, probably will miss it. But like, I mean, it's still on the internet. I'll be able to watch it. I mean, this will be the official way I tell people who want to watch Shaman King, just like watch this anime, the 2021 version. Don't go back and watch the early 90s like that. It butchered a lot. Go watch it if you want a good laugh, but like other than that, you probably shouldn't watch it for anything real serious.
Good lord, it's harsh criticism.
That first anime compared to this one, this is so much better.
Yeah.
Like
I talked to someone that watched it and they said they really liked it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure like it's good. I mean, it's good if you don't compare it to this. I guess it's the best way to put it. Like, if you want the original story that the original guy wanted to tell, then you're not gonna get it from there. You're gonna have to get it from here. But if you don't care about that, you want to watch the original, go by all means, go ahead and watch it. I mean, I'm not telling you you can't watch it. You know,
It
you don't.
makes sense because the person I watched it to likes really innocent stuff, so maybe they liked the fact that it was censored a little bit.
I mean, like, I wouldn't call that censored. I'm more call like they just chopped the head off and moved on with their life.
Wow.
Because there was no death. There was like half the stuff that was going on we've seen at this point didn't exist in it.
I know someone dies in the series right now, and they're like, "Not again." Wah, 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 wah.
I mean, no kidding. I mean, actually, if I recall, I think all like the child nudity didn't exist too. So I mean, if you really want to watch this show with all that nudity in the jock, you can go watch that.
No, I don't. I really don't.
So I guess with that, we're going to end it off here. We'll be back for like the series finale of a show that I've been dying to watch in its entirety, actually, and with the original story kept intact. I now know what people mean by this creator being very liberal with his art. So I will now be able to talk coherently to people in the future about this guy. Also, apparently, I don't know when this is going to drop, but apparently the sequel anime got announced.
That's fun.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it at my own time. I don't think I'm going to suggest you to. Not that you didn't like your time with it, but I don't know. I don't really know what the sequel's about, other than the children of the main characters. So I have no. I don't want to like tell you to watch this, and it's a bomb. So I think I would just like suffer in peace if in case it's bad.
Okay.
Until then, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for taking our consistent ramblings for 2 hours and 16 minutes.
Sorry.
Bye.